So that's it. This is Nigeria right now. Action. Distinguished, please.
A pleasure.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
This is Nigeria right now with Dixon Irebu. Thank you for having us finally.
A pleasure to have you.
Well, I appreciate you, sir.
Thank you.
How's it going? How's Nigeria treating you?
Well, so far so good. We're struggling to make things work, and we're putting on the maximum effort that we can.
But there are issues, lots of issues, and that's why we came this way. First off, I'll approach it from the premise of the opposition, that you are the minority leader in the Red Chamber. Yeah. Some people out there think that the opposition seem to be quiet with all that is happening in the country. The hunger in the land, the economic situation in the country is terrible. And then a recent development that is biting everywhere is the fuel scarcity and all of that. I don't know what your reaction will be.
It's true, and the situation is not as good as it should be, no doubt about it. But if I take it from the angle of opposition that you talk about now, I know that Nigerians are fixated on frontal confrontation on the part of opposition, shouting and making very serious propositions that will not see the light of day. I do know that in the past there had been these issues of when issues like this turn up, fuel scarcity, electricity is epileptic, food is scarce, people are hurting, and rest of them. And people think and fixated on the point that, yes, call for the impeachment of the president, call for the removal of this person and the rest of them. And of course, that is an approach. And of course, all of us come from different perspectives, and all of us, learning from history, have tried to adopt positions that do not ordinarily appear to be very confrontational and the rest of them. For me, I think that the Nigerian problem is our problem, and everybody has a role to play. And the role to play in our own situation, and the way I find it, by my own leadership, is to see how much we can work together to solve the problem. So I walk to the Senate President, for instance, and I say, look, Mr. President, Nigerians are hurting. Let's find a way around it. On one or two occasions, we have had reason to say, look, you go talk to Mr. President, and let Mr. President know that Nigerians are hurting, you know. And of course, you have seen some of the responses from government, you know, churning out critical policies to say, look, this must be done. Look at the matter of DSTV, the usual increment in subscription rates and the rest of them. And you are aware, too, that I raised a motion on the floor of the Senate that these people are raping Nigerians, and the regulatory bodies appear to be acquiescing in them and the rest of them. And the committee was set up. And of course, they continued because the committee's report never saw the light of day and was not debated, and no decision or resolution taken by the Senate. But recently, I had reason to approach the Senate presidency and leadership and say, hey, these people have started again, because we didn't do anything in the 9th Senate. They are emboldened and they have started again. And of course, you realize recently that the federal government has come out to say, hey, you cannot arbitrarily be increasing rates like that, and you must stop this. And so I want to believe that we cannot be doing the same thing over and over the same way all the time and expect a different result. And so if shouting and calling for the impossible, for instance, will not solve our problem, we must find a way of working with the system to see how the system can work for everybody.
It's almost a year now. This is May. So May 29th, it will be 1 year of this administration. How will you sincerely appraise the performance of the Tinubu
By May 29th, every Nigerian will have a reason to say something. Right now, in some of our engagements with the ruling party, the impression has been created that, look, these problems are taking roots over time. And they are barely how many months in office. And that we should
They needed time.
exercise some level of patience, give us some time and rest of them. But of course, Nigerians have been fixated on 100 days in office, 1 year in office. So 100 days is too early to say this is not working and the rest of them. 1 year may not be enough for you to fix all the problems, but 1 year is enough for you to lay the foundation towards solving the problem. And so Nigerians will be asking questions, we will be asking questions. What have you done with our 1 year? What have you done with the resources that we have? Because as it is now, I can say without any fear of contradiction that, quite frankly, we are not moving forward as a country.
We're not.
We're not moving forward.
Let's bring the issue, member of your party, Senator Ningi, who I've had on this show, and what played out. Because we haven't heard from your own end, what played out. Was the suspension necessary?
What actually happened was the fact that at the level of the Northern Senators Forum, issues were raised by some members as to the discrepancies in our budgets 2024, and that somehow the budget was padded. That was the number one accusation. Secondly, that the North was exchanged, that out of a total of 15 trillion capital allocation, that the North had only 2%. The appropriation committee came up to say, hey, the budget was not padded. Say, look, this is where the money is coming from. This is where the money is coming from. And this is how it had become part of the budget. And that the money that you are talking about was first-line charge. And because it's first-line charge, it will not form the regular part of the budget that you are talking about here and the rest of them. And so those explanations were given.
Did it suffice, the explanations?
Again, that is an issue. Having therefore explained the presence of the money and the purpose for which it was meant, and accepted by the executive that made the proposal for the budget, the issue of budget padding definitely does not arise. Because if the budget that was proposed by the executive was the budget that was returned to the executive, who is complaining about budget padding here? Because it's the executive that made the proposal.
That ought to complain whether there is padding or not.
And the executive has come to say, hey, this was the budget that we proposed. It was not padded.
So do you accept it?
Of course, because I'm a member of the appropriation committee. And we reviewed all the proposals and the rest of them. Of course, you know that the Senate has the power to adjust budgets here and there, move one from the other and the rest of them, given the priority that we perceive at the time. And so that was the explanation that was given in the full glare of the entire Senate. And so for anybody to continue from that point again was certainly some level of mischief.
So the suspension of Senator Ningi, in your view, is it justified?
Well, that is another story. I can tell you that at the point at which Senator Ningi was suspended, passions were very high. It was like a spontaneous reaction to a situation where an individual granted an interview to say that the Senate passed a certain level of budget and that the executive was implementing another level. This time,
that there were two budgets.
There are two budgets. Having explained that no, it didn't happen that way, that this was a true position of things, that the Senate didn't pass two budgets, only one budget, and that was the budget that the executive was executing. Many senators reasoned that the matter should have ended there. And many senators, including my humble self, had said, look, if that was the situation and this explanation is acceptable to the entirety of Senate, this is democracy. Then it was incumbent on the accuser to simply say, hey, colleagues, knowing what I know now, I think I'm wrong. I'm sorry about it, because what it portrayed, the Senate at that time, was a bunch of idiots that didn't know what they were doing. And as some Nigerian commentators had said, that senators are a bunch of thieves. I don't know, when senators pass budget to the executive, for instance, where are they stealing from? From the budget that had been passed already?
What if they are in bed with the executive?
What it meant was that because the image of the Senate was not that high amongst Nigerians, because of the circumstances that Nigerians found themselves, some of us felt that it was like adding salt to injury if you begin to further spread falsehood about the Senate. It won't help the integrity of the Senate. That is against the background of the fact that a meeting was held and it was agreed, let's approach the leadership of the Senate.
And you did?
And we did. And having discussed with the Senate President, and the Senate President now said, hey, I wasn't aware of this discrepancy that we are talking about.
Arm me with those things.
But if you have already consulted and if you already employed the services of a consultant, let us have the details of what the consultant has found out. Because in the Senate, unlike the National Assembly, the process of passing the budget is a tripartite process. The executive submits a budget, the two houses of the National Assembly process this budget, and then we pass the budget. And so if along the line anything went wrong, 2-3 ways that these things can be done. One, through a corrigendum.
Corrigendum?
A corrigendum to normalize the discrepancy or the anomaly. Or through a supplementary budget in which whatever was missing or inappropriately missed out and the rest of them will now be presented as a supplementary to complete the budget cycle. So this is what we agreed on. And so we left the meeting with the Senate President, Northern Senators, with the belief that our colleague, chairman of the Northern Senators Forum, will present these facts to the Senate President. Some of us, up to this moment,
we haven't seen it.
We haven't seen that document. And so now, at a time when everybody thought that with the explanations and acceptance of the explanations, everything was over, our colleague was still insisting that he was right. And because the Senate, as an institution, owe Nigerians explanations as to what we are doing, we felt it was over the board for him to continue to insist, even when majority of the senators had agreed that what was done was correct and everything was. That brings us to the point of sanction. On that day, I can tell you that Senator Abdul Ningi was privileged to make 3 contributions. It was a rare privilege for him and even others to make more than 1 contribution, because according to our rules, you don't have the chance to make more than 1 contribution on a particular issue one day in the Senate session. But I can tell you, and nobody can contradict this, if Senator Abdul Ningi had said on that day, say, hey, gentlemen, with this explanation, I am satisfied. Knowing what I know now, I think what I have done is wrong. I withdraw my position. But that if I found out any new things, I will come back. He would have been applauded. Senators would have applauded him. And the issue of sanction wouldn't have arisen.
As his leader in the Red Chamber, leader of the caucus of PDP, right, minority leader, was there any protection that you could have given to him?
Yeah, we had since had a meeting with the National Working Committee of the party. We have advised ourselves. The minority caucus has also swung into action. In one of our leadership sessions, we had called for a review of Senator Ningi's situation. And in the last...
this was after his suspension?
Yeah. The Senate has constituted a small committee to review the Abdul Ningi.
So there's a possibility of recalling
Of course, there is. There's usually every possibility. And even on the strength of that, the minority caucus, after the decision of the Senate to set up that committee, I'm the chairman of that committee, and we're making efforts now to see Abdul Ningi to see how we can review the situation.
But can I ask you, distinguished, as you're representing your people in the Red Chamber, is it right that your people will be denied the opportunity to be represented because of one thing or the other that had to do with, as just reeled out, that has to do with budget? Is it not being unfair to people of the Bauchi Central that Ningi represents?
If I am mindful of my responsibility to my people, of being there to speak for them, then I should be mindful of my actions and utterances to play by the rules, because the rules are made for us to play by it. Like I made a contribution on the floor of the Senate, and I say, hey, whatever it is, let us not throw away the baby with the bathwater.
That's the point I'm making.
Abdul Ningi has wronged the whole Senate by casting an unnecessary aspersion on the integrity of the Senate. But he's one of us. The Constitution of Nigeria provides for 109 senators. So as long as Abdul Ningi is out there, it means that the Senate is not complete.
It's not complete.
And it is on the strength of that our people have agreed that, look, okay, let's look at it. If it is okay for us, let's do the needful and ask him not to sin anymore. Because the Senate ordinarily is a family, you know. But some of these...
And once you're in there, party and all of that...
But no. We are senators of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, and that is what Nigerians should appreciate.
Yeah.
You know?
We'll take a break, distinguished, and come back and engage further. Yeah. Nigeria right now with Dixon Irobu. Today my guest is distinguished Senator Patrick Abba Moro. He's our guest, former Minister of Interior, and we'll come back. Welcome right back. This is still Nigeria right now with Dixon Irobu, and my guest is distinguished Senator Patrick Abba Moro. Distinguished, let's bring it to your party, the PDP. What's going on? What is the position of PDP now? The position of PDP is that as it is now, let us give peace a chance. There were several extremities. Some people out there who were looking up to the breakup of the PDP expected that there was going to be fracas. There was a group of people supporting Mwike as a frontline member of the party. There was also a group of people who were supporting the presidential candidate of the party in 2023, Alhaji Abubakar Atiku. And these two groups had two opposing tendencies. One, there was this tendency that Damagun should be confirmed as the substantive chairman of the party. Apparently, the view of that group, Damagun has done well, so let him continue. There was this group again that say, hey, Damagun has failed, and perhaps rightly so, based on the fact that PDP's activities had nosedived, was its virtual comatose. And so if nothing was happening, if meetings were not holding and the rest of them, then Damagun must go. But, you know, people fail to appreciate the constitution of the PDP. As acting chairman, Damagun was only acting the constitution. Our constitution provides, section 35(3), provides that in the absence of a substantive chairman, due to resignation, due to removal, or due to death and the rest of them, the deputy chairman from that zone or the area where the chairman comes from should act. So there was nothing extraordinary about it. Again, there was this section 47(6) that provides for a situation of vacancy for somebody to be appointed by NEC from the zone or the area where the original chairman comes from to act out the remainder of the tenure. And so these are two positions. And the first position was taken. So now the issue is, when should Damagun leave as acting chairman? There's nothing that is permanent. And so we felt at that time that we should adopt a position. In fact, that was the position of the Senate caucus, that we should adopt a position of no victor, no vanquished. And that since the current National Working Committee had started activities by calling the several levels of the party to meeting, let's give a chance. What we have done, therefore, is to douse tension within the party, reduce crisis within the party. So that is the position of the party as it is now, because don't forget that we are talking only about the chairman of the party. Yes. We're not talking about the entirety of the National Working Committee. Yes. And so it is like a bird, you know, jumping from the ground and then perching on the anthill. It's still ground. And so we felt that if a few months is enough to allow the party to stabilize and take a chart a course and the rest of them, the acting chairman himself has said, look, he didn't and doesn't intend to stay forever, to stay to the end of the distance, but that they have some activities now. And come to think about it, the party has a constitution. It has procedures for sanctioning members who err. Yes. And so we have a provision for a disciplinary committee, which had not been in place. And the National Executive Committee said, look, let us resuscitate and reconstitute the Reconciliation and Disciplinary Committee, because
whether we are disciplining or you are not disciplining, there must be some place for peace.
But distinguished, looking back now, because in 2023, people believed that PDP bungled an opportunity to regain power by not allowing, you refer to the Constitution, that the provisions of the Constitution which allows for rotation of...
well, again, let me tell you, that's a long story, because you're talking about rotation.
Yes.
Some of us in PDP
zoning,
at that time, yes,
zoning.
Yeah. Yes, you're talking about zoning.
Is it in your Constitution?
Yes, in our Constitution.
So how come it was not respected?
How do you mean not respected? Because don't forget,
you respect it in
the last, wait,
yes.
let's be realistic about this thing. The last president
yes.
of this country
yes.
was from the South.
Is that how the Constitution puts it?
It says zoning.
Yes.
That's zoning.
Mm-hmm.
The party is not zoning in anticipation of another party.
Is it that the party constitution, what about the country itself, where a northerner had just finished 8 years, right? And then, so will it be right that your party... Yes, because Buhari,
look,
you will say, oh, that he's not from your party.
Let me tell you how some of us felt.
Yes.
Rightly or wrongly. We felt at that time, I felt at that time, that the presidential candidate of PDP should come from the South. That was my position.
That was your position?
That was my position, personal to me.
And that was the right thing, isn't it?
Well, that's the right thing to do, but don't forget that the contradictions in our existence is the fact that we have several political parties.
I get that point.
At the point that we are talking about, the PDP is not North and South. The PDP is a national party of Nigeria.
Yes.
And so if I say, for instance, for reasons of morality, for reasons of equity, for reasons of fairness, the presidential candidate of the PDP at that time should come from the South, I am right. But if others say, for instance, that the person who had just left office as president of this country on the platform of PDP was from the South, and therefore the North should produce a candidate for the party, they are equally right.
Would they be right when your last presidential candidate was from the North? So if, for instance, that candidate won the election, wouldn't it have been the last candidate, the last president from your party, from the Northern Nigeria?
You are talking about the North.
Yes.
I am talking about my party. It's my party that you are discussing.
I get that.
Not the region.
No, I get that. Get my argument. My argument is that in 2019, your candidate, the candidate of your party, was from the North.
Yes.
So what is, because you referred to that the last president that your party
was he elected?
Oh, until he gets elected?
Yes.
Really?
We are talking about a president. No. A president from which part?
So if
not a presidential candidate from which part?
If the candidate continues to lose, the party will keep zoning that, giving the ticket until the
Don't forget that the PDP as a party never zoned the 2019 or 2023 presidential...
no, 2019, the party zoned it to Northern Nigeria. Well, no Southerner purchased
in 2023, the party threw it open for all Nigerians.
Was that right? Was that not against your constitution?
What is the meaning of constitution? The constitution is for us to operate.
Yes.
And because of this argument that you are raising now, the argument of North and South, the PDP now says, well, even though the last president of this country on the platform of PDP was from the South,
leave it open.
Because the South is now complaining, leave it open. For me, like a person and a member of PDP, that didn't sound well for me. The PDP is not about me alone.
I'm asking that because you are a leader in the party.
Yeah.
Looking at it now, if you were to say, we made a mistake, because 2027 election or 2027 politics has started playing out already.
Yes.
Right. If the party does not get it right now, how will you know? The
party will still lose.
The party will still lose.
If we don't get it right, we will still lose. That is why there is a strand of argument now that, hey, look, if Party A, Party B, Party C had picked candidates from this part of the country on the basis of their own constitutional arrangement, it is only fair that Part D, which in this case could be PDP, should also pick from that set, so that all of us will come and struggle for votes in the North. That is the position that some of us are taking. But again, building Nigeria, building the party is work in progress.
Yeah.
Deepening democracy is work in progress. And so if Nigerians in PDP are listening to you and I, it becomes a learning platform for all of us now to think about what is right. Because the insinuation that you are constructing now is that PDP lost because the candidate comes from the north.
Yeah, because if you had upheld the constitution, possibly you wouldn't have had the division that you had in the party.
They're all assumptions, because even if PDP picked a candidate from the south, there's no doubt that one candidate will lose and one candidate will win.
Of course, no doubt.
So, but I agree with you very completely. It's my personal view that as at the time that President Muhammad Buhari, a northerner, on the platform of APC, was leaving office, all political parties ordinarily should have picked candidates from the south. You know? But you see, the party is dynamic, and human beings operate it. I am from Benue State. Since the creation of Benue State, since the introduction of democracy in Nigeria, Benue South Senatorial District, predominantly occupied by the Idoma people, had never produced a governor. We have never produced a governor. It's a matter of morality. It's a matter of adherence to equity and fairness that, look, every Nigerian has a capacity to make contributions to the development of Nigeria.
Okay,
and so we should be given chances.
Distinguished, just a final word from you. The point I want to make now is 2027. Some members of your party have publicly announced their support for the president for 2027. What's your take on that? It
is unfair for a member of a political party, a member of PDP, to advocate a support openly for the candidate of opposing party. They're going to look at all the gamut of anti-party activities and the rest of them, the disciplinary committee. They're going to look at it.
Can Wike be sanctioned?
Let's not talk about sanction. People are going to be judged according to the level of their involvement in activities that undermine the party. There's no doubt about it, you know. But I think the issue now is to find a way of putting the party together, of say, hey, what we did in the past was wrong. Let's turn a new leaf for the party to march forward. But I want to say this. If you don't believe in your party, then you don't have any reason to be in the party. Okay? But
both morally and otherwise.
Morally, you know, you don't have to, you know. But when you are in a party and you come out to openly canvass for another party, well, as a human being, I will ordinarily leave you to your judgment. Whether you are demonstrating integrity, whether you are demonstrating a principle, whether you are demonstrating capacity to be where you are. Because the party is a voluntary organization.
No doubt.
So you have chosen to be in PDP. So you must act PDP. You must talk PDP. And to do otherwise, to my mind, is unfair.
I agree with you. Distinguished Senator.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
Nigeria right now with Dixon Irebu. And of course, we came this way to engage distinguished Senator Patrick Abba Moro. Nigeria is our country. And the leaders must be held accountable. And that's what we'll do on the show. Of course, engaging that the opposition leadership in our country should do a lot more. You have heard from the distinguished senator, but leaders, stand up for your people. That's what is paramount. It's not that you go in there and ego trip while the people suffer. This country can be fixed. And that is the much summary that you can get from the engagement that I've had with Senator Moro today. I'll see you next week on this same show.